Maintaining it, protecting, you know, our culture, all those things. In journalism and in media, how do we go about that? Because now there's so many people that's moving here that can now try to tell these stories or try to, I mean, especially in like journalism where they can quote a Black writer multiple times and they're basically just copying it and pasting. So how do we like protect our own stories when it comes to Black media, Black journalism here in Atlanta?
I think you're doing what you're doing. Like if people doing what you're doing, creating these platforms where it's like, okay, you know, your name is on it. You know what I'm saying? You own this content. And so that's a big thing. It's like, I remember my good friend, Isaac Hayes III, like a few years ago, he was like, you know, it was probably like 5 years ago. He was like, you know, why doesn't Atlanta have a Breakfast Club? Why doesn't Atlanta have a Hot 97 or a Sway where it's like people want to come and tell their stories? And it's so much culture here, so many creatives here. Why don't we have that those same platforms? And so I think he really put a you know, kind of a fire on everybody in media to say we have to step our game up. Like we really have to like own the space because the culture is here. Like, you know, of course, New York, they started hip hop. But you ask anybody, like Atlanta is where the culture we're still the pulse of the culture, especially hip hop culture, which is Black culture, which is Black youth culture. So it's here. Like this weekend, you got the Revolt Music Conference. Next week, you had the BET Hip Hop Awards. They're in Atlanta. They could be in any city in America.
That's right.
They could be in Miami. They could be in New York. They could be in LA. But those two big events chose to be in Atlanta. Like, what does that say about the city? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's something that's big, and I think we have to understand what we have. And I think as media outlets and as journalists, we have to take advantage of these moments. We have to make sure that, you know, if there is a revolt here, how are we capturing that story? How are we capturing the BET Hip Hop Awards? How are we making sure that we're telling the story from our point of view? Because there's going to be people flying in from other cities telling, you know, giving their perspective, but being from Atlanta, we have to own this space. You know, we have to be like, okay, this is what it is. This is what Atlanta is. This is what it represents.
I love that, man. In the book, you know, you talk about legends like Kilo Ali. A lot of people have no idea like who that is, and then seeing, you know, Beyonce trying to use like certain parts of the song. How did that feel, knowing that you was putting us on to people like that from the 80s and 90s, and now seeing the greatest, biggest artists in the world sampling that? What was that like for you? Because you was already on that.
Man, it's so crazy. Like, like I was, you know, the thing is like, so Beyonce drops her album earlier this summer, and, you know, I'm just skimming through it, just like, okay, this is, you know, very upbeat album, dance album. And I get to the track, I think it's track 14. It says America, America. And I'm just like, what? What is this? So I think for people in Atlanta, it was like a shock because Kilo Ali came out at a time where people weren't really paying attention to Atlanta from a national standpoint. He was a regional artist. So people from New York, LA, some people in Florida knew about him, but the major cities, they didn't know about Kilo Ali. It was something that was kind of a Southern Atlanta thing. And to see Beyonce like actually use that the beat and the Dream, who was an Atlanta native, he was the producer on it.
Wow. All right. So now everything's starting to connect.
Makes sense. So he connected it. So so you got to thank the Dream for like bringing that side of Atlanta, that because Kilo Ali came during the bass culture, the bass music culture of the late 80s and early 90s. And just to see Beyonce give that song a whole nother light, it was like, it was amazing. It was crazy. I mean, I was at the Yeek Fest last week. So the Yeek, for people who don't know, is a dance from Atlanta, and it based from Atlanta. And people it was like a dance from the early 80s, 90s. People would hit them in the skating rinks, and it was just a Yeek dance. And it just shows you that, man, like our culture is really deep. You know what I'm saying? It's layers to it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was telling, man, people our generation, we have to make sure that people know what we are, who we are, and we have to protect it.
Yeah, I love that, man. Trap history. I love that title. Just overall, like, what is our history of just trap music, if you can try to like condense that?
So it's twofold. So if you know, when you delve into the book, there are several sections, right? The first section is the music. The second section is the streets. And so I talk about the real side of trap. And I, you know, during the writing of the book, I went to the Bluff and I interviewed people who were addicted to heroin. you know, and it's the ugly side. It's the ugly side of the trap, and people who are fighting with addiction to this day. Yeah. And I think a lot of times in the music, you know, you hear about the sale of narcotics, but you don't really hear about the effects of addiction.
That's right.
And so that's something that I wanted to show in this book, is that there are repercussions to your biggest drug dealer that's saying that they're selling so much whatever weight or whatever. There are lives behind it. Man. You know, there are mothers who are strung out on heroin while their kids are right there. So I wanted to show that side. And so, you know, one of the chapters in the book is just this goes into the buff and you know, the reality of addiction and how it tears apart families, how it destroys lives. And so I wanted to make sure that I actually gave that substance as well as the music, so that people won't get lost and say, okay, this is all what trap is, and this is just something we can play with. No, it's real lives that's behind this music. You know, there's real lives of people who are being affected by this music to this day. You know, there's still traps and people who are addicted to narcotics to this day, who are trying to get off. And so, as a journalist, that's what my job is to do, is to tell all sides of the story. And so that's what I wanted to do.